Hello and welcome to this video here where we're going to be kind of going through a lesson dealing with finding a missing side using our trig ratios. I'm going to assume in this video that you have already learned the trig ratios, and so I'm going to do a little bit of review on them. If you have not, hopefully we'll be able to go through somewhat quickly and get a good idea as to what we're dealing with here. So, little review of right angle triangles and the three ratios. So we have our triangle all labeled, opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. It's all based on that angle there in the top left. We could use sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so that's if we have those two sides. We could use cosine if we have adjacent and hypotenuse, and we could use tangent if we have opposite and adjacent. The little acronym that we sometimes remember is SOH CAH TOA. There we go. Okay, so there's our little acronym to help us remember what they are. Now, in my class, you can use the formula page. You can write stuff down on there as well. So that will hopefully help you to come up with or remember those there. All right, today we're going to take a look at how do we find a side length given an angle and another side. Now, in a triangle, we always need to know three pieces of information before we can find the third, or before we can find the fourth piece. One of those pieces has to be a side length, and in a right angle triangle, the 90 degrees is going to count as one of them. So you'll notice here that we have the 90-degree angle, we have the adjacent side, and we have the angle 63 degrees, that top left one. And so we can then calculate what is the opposite side of this triangle. So let's calculate the opposite side of our triangle. First of all, we want to figure out what is known. We know the angle, like we mentioned. We know the adjacent side, that is 7 meters. We also have the 90 degree, but I'm not going to put that in. That's kind of just general knowledge. And the opposite side is what we are trying to find. All right, so now that we have those pieces, based on that information, which ratio makes sense to use? Well, the ratio that has, there we go. The ratio that has opposite and adjacent in it is our tan ratio. So we are going to use our tan ratio in order to solve for the side length. All right, there's our tan ratio. Now, like with every equation or function that we have, it is important that we plug in the information that we know. Our theta is equal to 63 degrees. Our adjacent side is equal to 7 meters. And so we can then now solve for it. I'm going to put it like this here. I'm going to do a 1 underneath the tan 63 to create equivalent ratios. And that's going to help me to solve for this. And I'm going to use a method called cross multiply and divide. Let's call it the fish method as well. But I'm going to use cross multiply and divide in order to come up with our solution. Start with the piece that we do not know. Or sorry, on the side that we don't know the piece. So I'm going to start with the 7 meters, okay, because we don't know the opposite side. So I'm going to start with 7 meters. I'm going to multiply across 7 meters times tan of 63. Then I'm going to divide by what's underneath, which is 1, and that should equal to the opposite side. And so the calculation looks kind of like this. 7 times tan of 63 divided by 1 is equal to the opposite side. Now, on your calculators, you're going to have to figure out how this works because every calculator is a little bit different. If I was teaching this in class, I would have you try this and make sure that you get the same answer. You will either have to do tan 63 on your calculator, or you will have to do 63 tan. Okay, the order that you put it in does make a difference, and what you should get is 13.74. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to pause this video and make sure that everybody is getting 13.74 meters. Make sure that your calculator is in degrees. That's very important as well. And make sure that you know which way to use your tan, whether you write in 63 tan or whether you write in tan 63. It will make a difference on your calculation, and your calculators, you need to know how to use them. Sorry that I'm not there to help you, but that is, I would try to help if I was in class or when I will be in class. All right, other thing to think about, make sure that all answers are to 2 decimal places, and then there we have our opposite side. Okay, if you haven't yet, you need to pause the video, make sure to pause it and get into what is, or can you get that answer? Do you get 13.74? Use your calculator. Make sure you know how to use your calculator because it's very important going forward if you want to get the correct answers. All right, we are going to jump into some examples. I'm going to slide my little face over there. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like to have a paper or pencil. a paper and pencil, your calculator, and I want you to pause the video now and solve for that missing side length. What is that missing side length? So pause the video. Once you have your answer, unpause, and then we will come up with the answer. All right. So first thing we're going to do, and maybe you noticed what the answer is already, it's kind of a fun one. Got to label first, okay? We have our hypotenuse, our opposite, and our adjacent sides. The opposite is known, the adjacent is not, and we have an angle of 45 degrees. So we're going to use tan ratio in order to solve for our adjacent side. Plug the values in. We have 29 on top, we have tan of 45 there, and imagine that there's a 1 underneath. I'm not going to put that in here, but imagine there's a 1 underneath. We're going to have 29 times 1, because we go now down instead of going up, because we're starting on top. Then divide by tan of 45, which is equal to 29 meters. Yeah. Okay. It's because 45 degrees gives us a tan of 1. So therefore, it actually doesn't change. So those two sides are the same. This is an isosceles triangle. Yeah. And we have the two 45-degree angles. Good job. There won't all be all that easy. All right, let's try this one. Give this one a shot. Solve for the angle, or sorry, solve for the missing side. And then when you have your answer, unpause the video and we'll double check the work. All right, let's try to solve it. First of all, always going to label. So I always label first. That is the number one thing that has to be done. We're given the adjacent side. We're asked to find the opposite side. So again, we're going to use our tangent function in order to find our tangent ratio. This time we know the adjacent, so we're going to put that one on the bottom. Okay, we don't know the top, so we are going to now multiply across. Again, multiply to the tan of 60, divide by 1, and hopefully you were able to get 19.05. Okay, so that should be the answer that you get. All right, so far so good. Here's another one. Try this one and see how you did for your answer. Okay, let's double check our answer. What is step 1? I hope you all said label the sides. There we go. We got it. Okay, we're given the opposite side. We're asked to find the adjacent. We're given the angle of 27 degrees. We're going to use our tangent ratio again. Plug the values in. This time we have the opposite, so therefore it's going to be on top. We are then going to times by 1, divide by tan of 27, and you should get an answer of 96.17 millimeters. Be careful about units. They need to be in there as well. If you're given units to start, your answer has to have units. If you're given just a number, that's fine. You don't need to do anything about that then. Just give the number, no units. Work on the assignment. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the day.